All right, welcome back to the Kiss FAQ. We're still digging into You Wanted the Best, You Got the Best, the 1996 compilation. We're applying a sonic shovel to the new tracks that were released on, or the new vault tracks that were released on, that released back in 1996. And going into some of the AI stems, it's a good opportunity just to see, how modern technology is able to de-separate what has been remixed in the studio, basically, with Universal and Kiss having access to all of the multi tracks. All right, part two of this exploration is Let Me Know, one of my all time favorite live songs. It was included on the King Biscuit Flower Hour and had always been presumed in that form to come from the Cleveland recording from the show. Unfortunately, on the Alive and Dress to Kill box sets in 2025, Cleveland was not complete. So, for whatever reason, they must have had a soundboard available, or the multi-tracks for a soundboard, in 1996 when they did these treatments. Again, we're not going to relitigate the vocals. I will show and illustrate them in order just to put it to rest once and for all. But in 1996, fans knew, for the most part, that the vocals had been adjusted, re-recorded, etc. So for the comparison with the You Wanted the Best version, it was purportedly from Detroit. Now we have Detroit available for that recording. So are we able to really once and for all put it to rest? Let's start with the vocals on this. And again, different AI stemming systems have different areas where they do the best. You may work with them and have ones that are, you like for your ears. I'm using the ones that my ears like, the ones that I find most appealing, the ones that I feel have done the best job separating out. Again, there's no right or wrong answer with any of this because none of these are the original multi-tracks and none of them ever can be. There's always something in the algorithm or the math that's been used to do the separation that makes that a technical impossibility, even for the Beatles and the wonderful system that they've used to do some of their work over the years. All right, so here's the vocal track.
Let me be your Sunday driver. Let me be your Monday man. I'll take you anywhere you want, just as fast as I can. Let me be your Sunday driver. Let me be your Monday man. Take you anywhere you want, just as fast as I can.
All right, so very obvious right from the get-go, the difference in vintage Gene 1975 versus, I guess now vintage, slightly less vintage Gene 1996, God, 30 years ago, clearly re-recorded, and right down to his phrasing. And I think one of the interesting things to actually note with these is, number one, it's a great match in terms of cadence for even the vocal being based from the Detroit recording and not Cleveland, as the case is. But that phrasing of his voice, he's very much singing in where that space is left on the recording rather than adding in a whole bunch of other things. Let's continue a little bit more.
It doesn't matter what you want to do. It doesn't matter where you want to go. You just gotta decide, girl, and then you let me know.
And I like to hear Paul doing the modern backing vocals there very clearly. And again, when you hear the 1975 track, which is the lower one, the second one for each one of these samples, you'll hear someone who's playing live in concert versus someone who's standing in a studio. And that's clear on King Biscuit as well for some of those recordings that of where they were potentially the cleaned up versions in Electric Lady after the fact. So you can hear being slightly slow getting back on the mic, or being slightly off mic, or incomplete phrasing, or breath patterns. So very much you can hear the difference in the vocal between singing live and singing studio.
It doesn't matter what you wanna do. Doesn't matter where you wanna go. Just gotta decide, girl, and then you let me know.
And then there you saw a couple of red highlights for areas on the 1996 re-recordings where ad-libs or different part of the lyrics were added in. Now, I don't know, again, if the original multi-tracks as presented on the box set were edited in any way to remove things. We don't know. Or whether they weren't present, especially when we don't have an audio or audience, pardon me, recording to which compare as well.
Oh, did you ever want nothing? So you're calling up your baby and she's stalling with the neighbors, and the night keeps getting longer.
And sorry, stopping once again because I love listening to these isolated Paul tracks, whether they're the vintage or the redos. It's so wonderful to hear Prime Paul just belting it out, and just the change in his phrasing over the decades and how he improved as a singer. To me, is really enjoyable. That's kind of why I'm doing this. Uh, Getting to listen to multi-tracks, real ones, is a very rare thing. I've only done that a couple of times in my life. But getting to kind of just do it virtually in this manner, I get my kicks. So I'm not going to make any excuses for enjoying this. Hope you do too.
Oh, did you ever want nothing? So you're calling up your baby and she's stalling with the neighbors, and the night keeps getting longer. You're trying and you're dying, wondering, does she love you or not come at your door? You're trying and you're dying, wondering, does she love you or not come at your door?
It's so obvious. Again, singing live. I won't belabor the point. What's this part?
Let me in, honey. Let me in, honey. Let me in, honey. Let me in, honey. Yes. 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 Yes.
So that's cool. That part there for the Kobo gene call out is affected in some way. Now, could that be a feature or a figment left in the AI separation? Absolutely. But it sounds like there's a little bit of an echo placed on his vocal at that point. And we certainly hear that later on in 77, God of Thunder, Take Me as well, for that matter, and other songs to enhance the backing vocals in many cases on the recording. So let's see what's next.
Let me be your Tuesday driver. Let me be your Wednesday boy. Let me be your Tuesday driver. Be your Wednesday boy.
Okay, now we have something interesting. Different lyric. Tuesday driver, Tuesday taxi. So Kobo, I believe, had the taxi, and different version or different lyric in the 96 version.
I'll be your loving man. I'll be your bundle of joy. And oh, it doesn't matter what you want to do. It doesn't be your loving man. I'll be your bundle of joy. And oh, doesn't matter what you want to do.
All right, so that is Let Me Know, the vocals. So additional lyrics and ad libs added in for the 1996 re-recording, which, makes it really fun just to line them up side by side. Again, the cadence is pretty spot on for matching up with Detroit, but we'll have to go to the music to really see if that is the case. And again, there's a difference in speed in how the original material was transferred in 1996 and then dealt with for mastering and inclusion on You Wanted the Best. And the same applies to the multi-tracks being transferred for use on the box sets in 2025 and then mastered and EQ'd for release in the box set. So there's differences. I could try and grid them out and line them up, but you know what? That's brutal. And there's more than enough work going into all of this. Let's go into the next part for Let Me Know. And this one, I want to compare the guitars. I've got when I started this out, I didn't have any way to really isolate the rhythm from the lead. That has changed in some of the videos I am able to, but the quality does differ somewhat by taking out that lead layer of guitar. There's something missing clearly on the resultant rhythm track. But for this, you'll get the gist with the two guitars, Ace and Paul, blended together. And again, there's slight speed differences, but I think what I'm focusing in on here to see if any additional work's been done in 1996 is overall tone and phrasing of the guitar work. And for that, it's mostly Ace, and then listening to the underlying rhythm track to see if there are any note flubs or, just missing passages. Again, with that, particularly for Kobo being live performance. Let's get going with some of the guitar comparisons. All right, so that's just a straight playthrough. That top one, the first one for the audio, is the 192 FLAC version from HD Tracks for You Wanted the Best from 1996. Now we'll go on to the box set. This is Kobo version. All right, so Kobo phrasing, general tone is very similar enough for me to be able to probably guess that EQ makes up for the difference, and having access to the original multi-tracks as well, for that matter. What I do see is that the channels are flipped. So we saw that with the demo versions of Deuce and Strutter in the early 90s when those first came out from Universal, that they were opposite the versions that had circulated. So I don't think that's here nor there. Maybe someone who's got more knowledge about audio engineering can say definitively whether flipping the channels on a recording, a stereo recording, has any effect on the listening experience. I don't know if my brain operates that way. Now, just for contrast, I want to pull out Cleveland just to show how it is definitively different than You Wanted the Best and the Kobo recording. So another soundboard from 1975 and one that's been fixed up in the studio. All right, so now we're going to focus in on the solo focus motif. Can't remember what the heck I meant by that when I started, so I'm highlighting something to draw your attention to, so we'll talk again at the end of this. All right, so there it is. For Kobo and You Wanted the Best, you could just hear that little motif that Ace plays, and it matches up nearly identically. Now, it's generally going to be the same or similar in most performances. Let's see what it sounded like in the King Biscuit Cleveland. Good enough. All right, so Poison Online 2 wants to borrow the riff for their mid-1980s material. Just the ending section of the song, again, very much provides a match for me. You can tell that was in the studio. You can hear kind of the counter chord. I don't know how you'd phrase that for the higher noting for the chord that Ace is playing against Paul's rhythm that really makes for a substantial seasoning for those ending notes. So again, real musicians chime in with a proper explanation on that. So here we are. The end result is no different than expected. The music is clearly, to my ears, from Kobo. The vocal is clearly from 1996. I'd love to know the details of when they actually recorded. That would be interesting to still find out these things that we don't know answers to, and just get a little bit more information to paint a more clear picture about You Wanted the Best. Because again, I think the intent and the purpose of that product now becomes more clear 30 years on than it did at the time. I don't think there was any intent to deliberately mislead. Maybe there was. Again, we can hear the original vocals, and I think by hearing those we can understand that maybe Gene or Paul or whomever in 1996 said, you know what, you're missing words, you're out of breath, it doesn't sound great, we can do better. How long would it take you to record those vocals again, while you're in training for a world tour? So again, I see both sides of that coin, where number one, let's re-record these vocals. Let's fix them because they don't sound great in their raw form. But let's also not worry about them sounding like us today, because people who come to the Alive Worldwide tour are going to hear us today as we are, as we sound, from our vocals to our playing across the board. So I think they left drums alone. I didn't play any drums in this one. Just wasn't any need. And guitars, well, we'll see what happens with the guitars in further explorations. All right, that's it for Let Me Know from You Wanted the Best, You Got the Best, the 1996 compilation celebrating Kiss Alive Worldwide. Oh, look, you're still here, watching or listening. We're not sponsored, monetized, or supervised. We're only in this for subs and likes and kicks. So why don't you mash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment about today's episode.